Wait, you're here? Not you. You're the best at Dynasty. At least that's what you tell everybody. But let me guess, it's week 9, your team's falling apart, and you're out of contention. If that's where you're at, it's all right. We've all been there. And guess what? You're in the right spot. I'm going to show you how to flip that Dynasty roster of yours in 2 seasons from a perennial loser to an all-time contender. All right, Dynamo Nation, let's get right into it. I know this is tough. You've spent time, effort, resources. You've built that team up. You've taken it from the bottom back to the top. But now you're right back where you started. That team's struggling. You're falling apart. What can you do? You have a couple of options. You can deny it and keep trotting out this same old tired lineup, getting mixed results. Or you can blow it up and rebuild. That's the right way to do it. And if you finally come to realization that that's where you're at, you're in the right spot. We're going to go step by step. I'm going to show you a team that I took over personally. It was an expansion team. The setup for the expansion was pretty poor. There was 2 teams that were introduced. They were going from 10 to 12 teams. They were introducing IDP to the league as well. So there's a couple of different wrinkles into how I went about building this team up. And you go from beginning of 2019 when I took over to now we're middle of 2021. And I'm currently tied for first place in my division. Got a very good young core and things are looking good. It's possible. It's very possible to do this if you have a plan. And that's going to be the first part of this video. The plan. You have to have an idea of what you want to do. You can't go into this not thinking it out, not planning it out, not trying to have some goal in mind. If you have that plan in place, and that plan is to, hey, it's finally time for me to rebuild and realize that I'm not going to win this year or probably next year, that's fine. The quicker you do that, the better you're going to be at assessing things and the quicker you're going to get to turning things around. The worst thing you can do in fantasy football is be stuck in the middle. You're either competing or you're building. That's it. If you're stuck in that middle ground every season, winning 6, 7 games, that's the worst place to be. You're not going to go anywhere like that. You have to take a step back sometimes and just realize, all right, this team's not built to win. I need to cash in on the assets that I have, and let's flip this thing over. So the plan, that's obviously step 1, but it's very important. Once you get to that point and you realize you have that plan in place, then you can get working. Step 2 for a dynasty rebuild is going to be the picks. You have to prioritize rookie draft picks. That has to be number 1 thing that you're looking for. And not just first. Like, there's this whole misconception that, like, you have to get first and second round picks. It's just not true. You can get 4th and 5th round rookie picks, typically added to any trade for free. They're just looking to throw them in. My philosophy, if I go into a season, especially that first season, that first real season of the rebuild, I'm not going to count the season to where you realize, all right, it's time to blow it up. It doesn't start there. That rebuild starts that first draft. And if you can go into that first draft with 15, 16, 17, 18 rookie picks, but half of those are in the 4th or 5th round, that's great. Those are free dart throws. There's been a lot of players over the years that have come out of rookie drafts. And for like my rookie drafts, we draft right after the NFL draft, maybe a week or 2 after, which is great because it allows me, if you scout and you can look at tape and you can make an opinion on your own without waiting for all these sites to come out for their rankings and so on and so forth, you can get value. I've gotten a lot of players over the years in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round. Travis Kelce was a 5th round pick in a lot of rookie drafts right after the draft. David Johnson was going in the 3rd and 4th rounds in a lot of drafts. These are guys that I've drafted late in the draft that I used picks that I basically got thrown in for free on different trades. And it's very possible for you to do that. You need to assess your roster. In that expansion team that I took over, and you can take a look at the roster right here, it was not pretty. I mean, really take a look at this roster from week 1 of 2019 and look and see who is viable on this squad. There was, I mean, at the time, remember, this is a couple years ago, Nobody on offense. Myles Garrett for the IDP. You know, like it was not a pretty situation. You fast forward a couple years, there's a few decent names that came out of this, but that just goes to me drafting. You know, we have Damian Harris. We've got Mike Gesicki, Dallas Goedert, Austin Hooper was on that. Aside from that, though, it wasn't pretty. And DJ Chark, that was a good season for DJ Chark. I kind of had a feeling he was going to have a good year. But it kind of goes to show, like, I guarantee whatever you're going through with your team right now, it looks a hell of a lot better than this. And if it doesn't, then please follow along and watch the rest of this video. But like I said, you're probably going to have more of an opportunity. Like the first year in that league, they didn't give us any rookie draft picks for that first draft in 2019. We got a third-round pick at the end of the draft because they only had 3 rounds at that point. So we had a third-round pick at the end of the draft. They slotted us in picks 11 and 12. No first, no second. So when you're playing a game like that and you don't have any draft picks to work with, I mean, it was tough sledding. You know, and then you can kind of fast forward. You'll see what my team looks like now. It's night and day. But that came through making 41 trades that first year, being extremely active on the waiver wire, using the waiver wire as a resource for draft picks. I would pick anybody up that I thought had a chance, give them a few weeks to blow up, have a couple of good games, and they were gone. I'm going to show you a bunch of different trades that I made that first year that really set the foundation. I wasn't nailed down to anyone. That first year, when you realize it's time to rebuild, you cannot be married to any player on your roster. They're all available. It didn't matter who it was that year. Austin Hooper had a great year in 2019. And tight end is my favorite position. Anyone who knows me knows I prioritize tight end over everything in Dynasty football. You give me an elite tight end that's going to allow me to have a positional advantage, I'm going to take that 10 times out of 10. I'll take it over the best running back, the best receiver. That's just my philosophy. So Hooper having a great season, it was hard for me to trade him, I'll be honest. But what I got for him, it was a no-brainer. DJ Chark, a young receiver, the second part of my building of a team. Draft and build up that receiver room. Receivers have the longest shelf life. They produce normally pretty quickly. And there's so many of them. You can build that receiver room up like that. Like it happened so quick. And for me to see a young receiver in Chark who had some upside, he had the draft capital, he was playing well. But again, what I got for him, it was a no-brainer. He had to go. That first year was all about setting that foundation for draft picks. That's phase 2, the picks. And here's a couple different trades. I'm going to put 3 or 4 of them up. You have this trade here, Myles Garrett. I love building up elite IDP, and I normally start with that defensive line. They're hard to find. But Myles Garrett, if you're going to give me that for Myles Garrett, he's gone. He was gone quick, fast, and in a hurry. And then using the waivers, Matt Breida. Matt Breida had a couple of good games at the beginning of the season, 2019. A couple 100-yard games. Did I keep him? No. He was gone. You want to give me a couple third-round picks for Matt Breida? You can have them. And that's just how I viewed it. And that's how I view it every time I go into these rebuilds. I'm not married to anyone. Nothing is untouchable. And if you're willing to pay me above market price, they're gone. And you have to prey on competing teams. When teams are in a position to win, they're going to overpay, especially if you have something that they need. If you have a young running back or a good scoring tight end, since the position's so scarce, as in Austin Hooper in 2019, you can take advantage of those situations. And when you do take advantage of them, 9 times out of 10, you're going to come out on top. You just cannot be afraid to pull that trigger. There's always going to be somebody down the line. You want to be building continuously, but you want to lay that foundation initially. Get those draft picks. You get the picks, you're going to be set in stone moving forward. Third phase, the players. Now, it's great to have all those draft picks. Typically, when I'm going into a rebuild, I try to spread the picks out. I don't just target that next season. Those next season picks are going to be a premium. If I can target, so like in this scenario, 2020 was going to be the next draft. I got a lot of picks in 2020. But I didn't just target 2020. I was looking at 2021, 2022, 2023. Get those picks later on. A first is a first is a first. But a pick in 2023 is nowhere near the same value as a first round pick in 2021 or 2020. That's just how it was. So if I could get those picks later on, in my mind, I'll worry about building this team in the middle. By the time I get to 2023, which was my end goal for this team, and not end goal for like making the playoffs, but end goal for putting the stamp on this roster to where, all right, now I'm going to be running this league for the next 5-6 years. That's my plan. But in order to get there, you have to be able to finagle in between and get through the middle. So like if my end goal was 2023, what steps do I take during 2020, 21, and 22 in the draft? And for me, it's wide receiver and it's tight end. The last thing I build in Dynasty is my running back room. I don't even worry about it. I will stream and I'll go 0 RB basically if I have to during that initial rebuild. Let me build up that receiver room, get studs across the board there. Let me find a tight end, and not just any old tight end, an elite tight end. Let me get my quarterback squared away. Let me build my defense. Let me get my IDP correct, and then I'll focus on running back. And once you do that, because like by the time you get there, when you're drafting receivers and tight ends in 2020 and 2021, by the time you get to 2023, they've already been seasoned for a couple years. You're not going into it with rookie receivers. You're going into it with guys second, third year in the league that are probably going to be producing a lot. So it's drafting the right players and when you're drafting them. Everybody wants to go running back first, and I get it. It's hard to win without running backs. I completely get it. But when you're rebuilding, you need to look at that as an opportunity. If you land that first pick in the draft in that your first season after rebuilding, which hopefully if you do it right, you're in the top 2 or 3, and there's normally 2 or 3 running backs at the top, trade that pick. Flip that pick immediately to rebuild that roster. You do that, you're going to be able to quickly accumulate assets and cascade trades. Trading off high rookie draft picks in the beginning, especially if there's running backs on the board and you're nowhere near ready to compete, is going to allow you to probably build up that receiver stockpile, because that's always one of my demands. If you're asking me to trade you an elite young running back, you're giving me a high upside receiver and multiple draft picks. That's just how it's going to be. So if you can have the patience, have the wherewithal to actually pull that type of trade off, because I know it's hard to pass on those running backs in the beginning, but you have to do it. Do not focus on running backs. Get those receivers right. Keep getting draft picks. I'm going to show you what my team looked like by doing that. So in 2020, I had the first 3 picks in the draft. And this all happened. My team bottomed out to where I ended up with the worst record in the league. I won 1 game, which was my goal. So I had pick 1. Pick number 2 was secured by this trade. The guy didn't know what he was doing. I took advantage of it. It is what it is. Pick 3 was secured by trading my IDP picks from this deal. When we went and did the IDP draft, and that's the other thing, like if you're in that rebuild and it's rebuild time mode, you're going to trade off all your vets immediately. I mean, everybody's on the block, but trade those high-end players, your high-end receivers, high-end running backs. If they're older than 27 years old, they're gone. They're not doing anything for you long-term. They've got to go. And also your IDP, especially if you're in an IDP league. This league is a very deep IDP league. There's 11 starters. So, you're basically playing a 3-4 defense, 3 linemen, 4 linebackers, and then 4 DBs. In that type of league, you have to have a good IDP if you want to win. And I know that going in. So, when I had someone calling with the Myles Garrett trade, but I, seeing what I got from him, but knowing that I could trade IDP picks for future rookie draft picks, that's what I did here. And that pick, that was a powerhouse team who had injuries nonstop that year. He probably should have been in the top 2 or 3, but he bottomed out. And he bottomed out to the tune of finishing with the 3rd worst record in the league. You just never know. So a little bit of luck was involved, but I would never have had that pick if I wasn't being active and thinking ahead. And that's what you have to do. So having the top 3 picks, I could have gone crazy and went and got Jonathan Taylor. CEH was up there at that point in time. Everybody was on CEH. I really didn't like him. Swift was my number 2. Taylor was 1. And I really liked Cam Akers. If I would have stayed, those probably would have been my 3. I probably would have traded number 3 though, to be honest with you. But anyways, I didn't keep any of them. They were all gone. And by the end of 2020, my roster looked like this. And my roster looks like this at the end of 2020, strictly based off of making those trades, trading those 3 picks away. I was able to fill the rest of that roster out and add a lot of talent along the way. And not just talent, but a lot of draft picks. From these deals, I added 6 total first-round picks to 2023, which was the draft that I was going to target. I added another 4 picks to 2021. So this is what my roster looked like at the end of 2020. Okay. Now this is what my roster looked like at the beginning of 2021 after the draft. You're looking at names like Jamar Chase, Kyle Pitts, CeeDee Lamb, DJ Moore, Antonio Gibson's on there, Chase Edmonds is on there, Russell Wilson at quarterback. Look at my IDP room right now. Just take a look at it. It's ridiculous. My IDP is stacked from top to bottom. And this isn't week 1. This is actually the end of week 8. This is what my roster looks like right today. This is what it looks like. And you can see why I'm where I'm at. You know, my team is 5-3, second in power ranking in the league. I've got 5 draft picks in 2023 in the first round, and that draft is looking loaded at running back. And what's the one position on my team that really needs to be addressed? It's running back. Yes, I have Swift, and I got Swift in an offseason trade. And he's probably going to be there for me. Chase Edmonds has been fine as an RB2. Gibson, I still like long-term. I'm not panicking on him. But if Gibson turns out to be my 4th running back at the end of 2023, I'm going to be looking really good. This is what you have to do. You want your roster to look like this in your second year of that rebuild. 2022, we're going to see what happens. My team should get better just through natural progression. Young players, they get better. My team should be way better next year than it is this year. Now, I don't have any first or second round picks in 2022. It's all 3rd, 4th, and 5th rounders. I'm just going to be throwing those darts, and we'll see what happens. You know, but going into phase 4 of rebuild, the playoff push, that's phase 4. That's going to happen in 2023. I'll probably make the playoffs this year, and I'll probably make it next year. Do I think I'm going to win the title this year? No. Next year's a possibility, but 2023, with my receivers, Kyle Pitts at tight end, I still have Goddard. When those guys continue to get better, and then you roll in 5 first-round picks in 2023 in a loaded running back room, and 3 of the picks that I have should probably be top 5, just based on today. Not saying that these guys, maybe they're watching the video right now, and you 3 know who you are. If you're watching the video right now and you decide to follow my advice, maybe your pick won't be that good in 2023. So I'm kind of hoping that you're not watching, because I would really like to land 3 of the top 4 or 5 picks, because right now all 3 of you guys suck. So hopefully you're not watching it. But if you are, hey, now you see my blueprint. So yeah, that's where I'll be at. 2023 is going to be a really good season for me. And I know for a fact, like, especially, all I have to do is stay healthy. Like, when you're trotting out Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, DJ Moore's been down right now, but he'll be back once McCaffrey's back. His numbers will go up. But you're trotting those 3 out, all 3 top 10 dynasty wide receivers. I still have Devontae Smith, who I'm high on. That offense just has to get figured out. Kadarius Toney, Rashad Bateman. You see what I did there? Those are 6 receivers that are all very, very high upside. And Terrace Marshall, I like a lot. We'll see what happens with him. But if he's my number 7, 8, I'm fine with that. So look what I did with the receiver room. Look at my tight end, Kyle Pitts. I took Pitts at number 3 this year. I didn't care. He was mine. You know, and I was glad he fell to me. I made moves. I was able to get up in the draft, traded a ton of draft picks to get up to go get Pitts and Chase. And I was only able to do that because I had accumulated so much, even with trading all those picks away. That's why I don't have anything in 2022. I knew looking at tape, watching Chase and watching Pitts, those two were going to speed up my process. I had to be in position to draft them. I did by any means necessary to get my tight end and my receiver. When you have conviction for a player, it's by any means necessary. And that's what I did. So having those guys, Russell Wilson, he's a steady top 10 quarterback. I was able to draft my future quarterback, hopefully in Justin Fields, 3rd round. You know, you start cascading these moves and you start stacking small wins on top of each other. And when you do that, like, your team's it's gonna turn quick. And having all these draft picks, now I'm in position of strength. I've always been in a position of strength. If your team sucks right now, you're not playing from behind. You're not playing position of weakness. You need to flip that mindset. You are in control. You control the entire league because you're selling players. These other teams that are competing, they're coming to you. Like, they're wanting players off of your squad because they know that you're looking for draft picks. You're looking for young players that haven't popped yet. You are in position of strength. You control the flow of the league. And when you think about it like that, you're able to really focus in and get hyper aggressive on deals. And when you start accumulating all these draft picks over 2, 3, 4 drafts, guess what else? You maintain that power. Anybody who wants a draft pick, guess who had in 2023? If you want a 1st round pick, who are you coming to? You going to the guy who has 1 pick? No, that's a loaded draft. He knows it. He wants to draft a running back. If you want to pick in 2023 in this league that I'm in, who are you coming to? You got to come talk to me. And they don't want to do that because what's going to happen? You come talk to me about a pick, I'm taking you for everything. And they know it. And it's not like getting personal about it, but I take this serious. I'm in it to win. And not just when I'm into, to me, it's my catchphrase. Don't just dominate for a year, do it for a decade. And that's what I do. I get in these leagues, I build up, and I go into autopilot because these teams just start rocking it out. So if you follow this video, follow these steps, we can recap it. Part 1, the plan. Plan it out. It's time to rebuild. How are you going to go about doing it? Part 2, the picks. Trade anything that's not nailed down for rookie draft picks. You may love a player, but you're not married to him. You have to let him go. Flip him. Part 3, the players. Focus on that receiver room. Focus on tight end, quarterback, IDP. Do not touch your running backs until you're ready to win it all. And then part 4 is the playoff push. This is when you go for your running backs. 2023, I'll get all my running backs. And when I do, who's going to be able to stop that team? When you think about the class coming in, and I still got Swift on this team, still have Gibson. They might end up being my 2nd and 3rd or 4th running backs by the time I get to 2023. But who's going to stop a team comprised of CeeDee Lamb going into year 4 or 5, Jamar Chase going into year 3, DJ Moore year 5 or 6, Kyle Pitts going into year 3 or 4, a seasoned Devontae Smith, a seasoned Kadarius Toney, a seasoned Rashad Bateman. And then you add those running backs from that class onto the squad. Who's stopping that? With that IDP. If you play an IDP league, what I've built up is pretty damn impressive. Yeah, Hunter just went down. He's hurt. I'll be able to fix that. But still, Hunter, Reddick on the line, Darius Leonard, Smith, Devin White, even a free agent acquisition I picked up this offseason, Kirksey. I had a feeling he was going to be pretty good. Tay Crowder. That team is loaded. Follow this advice. Follow this blueprint. I'm giving it to you for free. This is stuff that I should be charging for. Like, actually going about it and figuring out step by step on what to do. If you follow this, your team's going to flip real quick. You're not going to be on the bottom long. And once you get back to the top, you're going to stay there for a while.